Hey there. Dear sisters, it's Eva, your old friend from Eufaula, Alabama, sitting on my porch with a glass of sweet tea, watching the sun dip low over Lake Eufaula. At 65, I've learned life's like a peach cobbler sweet, but you gotta work through the crust to taste it. You'll ever feel your heart break when the folks you love most push you aside. That's the story I'm sharing today. About Eleanor Thornton, Ellie to us folks, a mama who poured her soul into her boy's future, only to hear his fiancée say, "Stay in your lane." Those words stung like a wasp. But Ellie, she found her fire, like a magnolia standing tall after a storm. Let's step into her world, right into the moment she took back what was hers. Come along, sisters, and let's see how she did it. The First National Bank on Broughton Street in Savannah, Georgia, stood quiet under a November sun, its brick facade warmed by the light filtering through ancient oaks. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and fresh ink, the soft clack of keyboards mixing with the hum of an old ceiling fan. Eleanor Ellie Thornton, 62, stood at the counter, her hands, worn from years of pinning boutonnieres and arranging centerpieces, clutching a leather-bound savings book. Her floral dress, a soft lavender, swayed as she shifted, and the pearl brooch at her collar, a gift from her late husband. William caught the light. Her hazel eyes, usually warm, held a steel resolve, though a tear lingered, unshed, as she faced the teller, a young woman with a kind smile. "Mrs. Thornton," the teller said, glancing at the screen, "you're requesting a withdrawal of $49,000 from your savings account, leaving $1,000. That's a big change. You sure about this?" Ellie's voice, steady despite the ache in her chest, cut through the quiet. "I'm sure, darling. That money was for my son's wedding, every penny saved over 20 years, through lean times and long nights. But his fiancée, Lila Prescott, told me to stay in my lane, said my ideas, my love, were too old-fashioned for their big day, so I'm doing just that, staying in my lane, and taking my heart with me." The teller's eyes widened, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. Ellie leaned forward, her brooch glinting. "This ain't just money," she said, softer now. "It's my dignity. I'm moving it to a new account, under my name. Can you do that for me?" "Yes, ma'am," the teller said, nodding quick. "I'll need you to sign here." Ellie took the pen, her hand steady as she signed, each stroke a quiet rebellion. She thought of Lila's voice at Forsyth Park, sharp as a switch, "Mrs. Thornton. We're going modern LED vines, TikTok vibes. Your stuff's sweet, but it's not us." She thought of her son, Benjamin Ben Thornton, 32, standing silent, his eyes avoiding hers, letting Lila's words carve a wound no bandage could heal. The memory burned, but it also fueled her. She'd given Ben everything: school, love, a future only to be sidelined. Her 35 years of wedding planning dismissed as outdated. No more. The teller handed her a receipt. The new balance, a stark truth, $1,000 left in the wedding fund. A symbolic gesture. Enough to say she hadn't abandoned Ben, but not enough to let Lila's ambition ride free. Ellie slipped the receipt into her purse, beside a faded photo of Ben at 10, grinning with a camera at Forsyth Park. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but firm, and stepped out into Savannah's Hum Street musicians strumming on River Street, tourists chattering under moss-draped oaks, the river glinting like a promise. Her heart was a tangle of relief and sorrow. She'd saved that fund with William, dreaming of Ben's wedding since he was a boy, sketching their dreams in crayons. They'd pictured magnolias, soft lanterns, a day filled with love. But Lila's vision neon lights, Instagram filters had no room for her, and Ben's silence had sealed it. Ellie walked to her Buick, parked under a sycamore, The radio playing Ray Charles's Georgia on my mind as she started the engine. The song, William's favourite, wrapped around her like a shawl, reminding her of his words, Ellie. You're the heart of this family. Don't let anyone dim your light. She drove home to her bungalow in Ardsley Park, its white walls nestled among magnolias, the porch creaking under her steps. Inside, the kitchen smelled of coffee and the faint sweetness of peach cobbler she'd baked for the St. John's Episcopal Book Club. Her cat, Peaches, twined around her ankles, purring soft as she sank into William's old armchair, the leather worn smooth. She opened her purse, pulling out the receipt and the photo of Ben, his boyish grin a ghost of the man who'd let Lila push her away. "Oh, Ben," she whispered, her voice breaking. Where'd we go wrong? 5 months earlier, Ellie had sat in her kitchen, sunlight spilling through the windows, when Ben dropped the news. "Mama," he'd said, fiddling with his coffee mug. "I proposed to Lila. She said yes." Her heart had soared, the ache of widowhood easing, as she pictured the wedding her chance to weave 35 years of planning into her boy's big day. She'd been a legend in Savannah's bridal scene, orchestrating everything from garden vows at Wormslow to galas on Tybee Island. "That's wonderful." "Ben," she'd said, smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. "I've got ideas, nothing pushy, just a few touches. Magnolias, maybe, or lanterns like your daddy loved." But Ben's hesitation had stopped her cold. "Actually, Mama," he'd said, eyes on his mug, "Lila's got a vision modern, minimalist. She's following this planner on Instagram. Savannah Bloom. They're talking LED lights, digital invites." Ellie's smile faltered. "Oh," she'd said, sipping her tea to hide the sting. "But it's a family affair." "Right. Maybe I could help, just a bit." That's when Ben had dropped the bomb, his voice low. Lila said, "Don't take it wrong, Mama, but it'd be best if you stayed in your lane. She wants it smooth, no confusion." The words had hit like a slap, Lila's command echoing through the quiet kitchen. Ellie had forced a laugh, saying, "Sure, I get it," but inside, something cracked. She'd excused herself, claiming a book club meeting, and sat on her porch, staring at the river, feeling invisible. The weeks that followed had deepened the wound. Lila's dismissal at a Forsyth Park lunch. We're going current, not traditional, and Ben's silence had left Ellie reeling. Then came the email from a florist, thanking her for a referral she never made, revealing Lila's plan to use her name for discounts. Joni Sullivan, her book club friend, had urged her to fight. "Ellie, you're Savannah's best planner," she'd said over pralines. "Don't let that girl erase you." And William's journal, found in a cedar chest, had sealed it, Ellie. "Your love's a river. Let it flow. But don't drown." Now, back in her bungalow, Ellie tucked the receipt away, the weight of her choice settling like dusk. She'd fought for Ben all her life, but today, she'd fought for herself. The river glimmered outside, whispering peace. And she knew, whatever came next, she'd face it with the strength William had seen in her, the heart that still bloomed, like magnolias after rain. Oh, sisters. Ellie's stand at that bank was like a hymn rising from St. John's Episcopal roar, true and full of heart. Y'all ever had to draw a line, to remind the world you're still here? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below. If Ellie's courage touched you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, 'cause we've got more to this tale: tears, triumphs, and maybe a slice of peach cobbler. Stay with me, and let's see where Ellie's journey takes us next. Hey there, sweet sisters. It's Eva again, nestled on my porch in Eufaula, Alabama, with a glass of sweet tea and the lake humming soft as a lullaby. At 65, I've learned that the folks we love most can drift away, like a boat slipping its moorings. leaving us wondering where we went wrong. You all ever hold a memory so tight it hurts, hoping it'll bring back what's lost? That's where we're heading today. Back to the quiet days before Eleanor Thornton's heart broke, when her bungalow in Savannah, Georgia, was her haven, and her boy Ben was still her sunshine. Let's walk through her garden, feel the weight of her love, and see how a mother's dreams can fray, soft and slow, like a magnolia losing its bloom. Come along and let's sit with Ellie a spell. Eleanor. Ellie Thornton's bungalow on Abercorn Street in Savannah's Ardsley Park was a slice of southern charm, its white walls cradled by magnolia trees, their creamy blooms scent in the air. At 62, Ellie moved through her days with the grace of a woman who'd carried joy and sorrow in equal measure. The kitchen, heart of the home, glowed with morning light, smelling of coffee brewed in a dented percolator, and the faint tang of peach preserves she'd canned last summer. Each dawn found her on the porch, sipping tea from a chipped mug, her cat Peaches curling at her feet, while the Savannah River, just blocks away, shimmered like a silver thread. Her hands, rough from years of arranging roses and tying satin bows, tended a small garden, where zinnias and clematis danced in the breeze. This was Ellie's world, built with her late husband, William, from Love and Grit. They'd bought the bungalow in 78, when Savannah was a sleepy port town of shrimp boats and church bells. William, a carpenter with a laugh like a summer storm, had carved the porch railings, while Ellie, a wedding planner, saved every penny from her gigs to make it theirs. They'd raised their only child, Benjamin Ben here, watching him grow from a toddler chasing fireflies to a man with dreams bigger than their quiet street. Now, with William gone 15 years, taken by cancer that came too fast. Ellie held on to the bungalow like a keepsake, its every creak a whisper of the life they'd shared, this April morning. Ellie stood at her counter, kneading dough for peach cobbler, Ben's favourite since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. The radio played Ray Charles's Georgia on my mind, its soulful notes filling the kitchen, tugging at memories of William humming along. She'd always baked for Ben's visits, hoping the scent of peaches and cinnamon might lure him back from Savannah's historic district, where he lived with his fiancée, Lila Prescott. But those visits had grown rare, replaced by texts that felt like crumbs, busy. Mama, talk soon. Ellie glanced at the fridge, where a photo of her and Ben at his high school graduation hung, held by a magnet shaped like a Georgia Bulldog's helmet. He'd been all grins then, arm around her, the river glinting behind them. Now, at 32, he was a shadow, his world of finance deals and rooftop bars a far cry from her porch's gentle sway. She slid the cobbler into the oven, wiping her hands on a flour-dusted apron, and stepped onto the porch. Peaches trailed her, settling beside Henry's rocking chair, its wood worn smooth by years of his touch. The river's breeze stirred the magnolias, their petals falling like soft promises. Ellie sank into the chair, her fingers tracing the armrest, and whispered, "William, what's happened to our boy?" She thought of the summers when Ben would snap photos with William's old Nikon, capturing her laughing in the garden, or the evenings they'd share shrimp and grits on this porch, William telling tales of his Navy days. Those memories were her anchor, but they couldn't fill the void left by Ben's distance. The rift had crept in slow, like Spanish moss spreading on an oak. After William's death, Ben had thrown himself into college, then a finance career in Savannah, climbing the ladder at a firm off Bay Street. Ellie had cheered him on, taken extra wedding gigs to cover his tuition, her back aching from hauling tables, her heart full of pride. She'd been thrilled when he got engaged to Lila, a polished marketing exec from Charleston, thinking she'd bring him joy. But Lila's world, Instagram, aesthetics, vegan caterers, Tybee Island galas was a different language, one Ellie couldn't speak. She'd felt it first at their engagement party. When Lila's mama, Patricia Pat Prescott, had eyed her cotton dress and said, "Bless your heart, you're so homey." Ben had smiled, but his eyes slid away, a habit that grew with each visit. Ellie's thoughts were broken by the jangle of her phone. She hoped it was Ben, but it was Joni Sullivan, her book club friend, asking if she'd bring cobbler to their meeting at St. John's Episcopal. "Count me in." "Joni," Ellie said, forcing a smile, "save me a seat. You sound tired." "Hun," Joni said, her voice warm. "Everything all right, just missing Ben." Ellie admitted, stirring her tea. "He's so busy with Lila, planning their wedding. I offered to help, but he says Lila's got it covered." Joni snorted. "Lila Prescott wouldn't know a wedding from a photo shoot. You're Savannah's best planner." "Ellie, don't let her shut you out." Ellie chuckled, but the ache lingered. She hung up, her gaze falling on the photo. "You used to call me every week," she whispered, her voice catching. She rose, wandering to the living room, where a cedar chest sat by the window, its lid carved with a river scene William had crafted. She lifted it, pulling out his journal, its pages yellowed like old lace. Settling into his chair, she opened to a page from 1985 when Ben was 5. July 10th. Took Ben to Forsyth Park today. He snapped a picture of Ellie laughing by the fountain, proud as a peacock. She hung it in the hall, saying it's her treasure. "I want him to know this home is his roots, no matter where he roams." Ellie's eyes stung, picturing Ben's small hands holding the Nikon, his giggle filling the park. That photo still hung in the hall, its edges curled, a reminder of a boy who'd loved her fiercely. She turned another page, dated 2009, William's last year. "Ben's got big dreams, talking about finance, making a name. Ellie worries he'll forget us, but her love's his compass. She's got to stand tall, show him her heart." She closed the journal, pressing it to her chest. William had seen Ben's spark, his hunger for a world beyond Savannah, and he'd known Ellie's strength, even when she doubted it. Losing William had shaken Ben, pushing him to chase success, to prove himself in Lila's glittering circle. Ellie had tried to keep up, baking his favorite cobbler, sending texts about River Street Festival. But each silence widened the gap. The doorbell chimed, pulling her back. Joni stood there, her braid swinging, holding a jar of pralines from the farmer's market. "Thought you could use some sugar," she said, hugging her. "What's got you so blue?" Ellie slid the journal onto the table, her voice low. "Ben's wedding," she said. "I offered to help 35 years planning weddings. Joni, but he says Lila's got a vision. Modern, minimalist, some Instagram planner. I feel like I'm losing him." Joni's eyes flashed. "You ain't losing nothing. Ben's under Lila's spell. But he's your boy, this house, your love, it's his roots. Don't let him forget that." Ellie nodded, Joni's words stirring a flicker of hope. "Maybe I'll talk to him," she said, sipping her tea. "See if he'll let me in. Just a little. That's my girl," Joni said, patting her hand. "You're Ellie Thornton, who made Savannah brides glow. Show him who you are." After Joni left, Ellie wandered to the hall, staring at Ben's photo. "You used to see me," she whispered, tracing the frame. She thought of William's journal, his faith in her heart, and felt a spark kindle. She'd spent years giving, sacrificing, hoping Ben would stay close. But maybe it was time to remind him not just of her love, but of the woman who'd built this home, who'd woven dreams with magnolias and moonlight. Whatever came next, she'd face it, her roots deep as the Savannah River, her heart as fierce as the sun. "Hey there, dear sisters, it's Eva, back on my porch in Eufaula, Alabama. with a glass of sweet tea and the lake whisperin' soft under a cotton candy sky. At 65, I've learned that love can cut deeper than any knife, especially when it's the folks closest to your heart who wield it. You'll ever pour your soul into something, a meal, a dream, a child, only to have it brushed aside like it don't matter. That's where we find Ellie Thornton today, standing in the glow of Savannah, Georgia, her hands full of hope, her heart bracing for a wound she never saw coming. Let's step into her world, feel the sting of words that bite, and see how a mother's love wrestles with a pride that's been trampled. Come along, and let's hold Ellie's hand through the storm. Eleanor. Ellie Thornton stood in her bungalow's kitchen, the April light spilling through lace curtains, casting patterns on the linoleum. The air was warm with the scent of peach cobbler cooling on the counter, its golden crust a quiet prayer for her son. Benjamin Ben Thornton. At 62, Ellie's hands, etched with years of tying satin bows and pinning corsages, moved with care as she arranged a bouquet of magnolias from her garden, their creamy petals soft as a sigh. Her cat, Peaches, twined around her ankles, purring low, while the Savannah River, just beyond Ardsley Park, glinted through the window like a silver ribbon. Today was special, a lunch at Forsyth Park with Ben's fiancée, Lila Prescott. To talk wedding vibes, as Lila's text had put it. Ellie's heart fluttered, hoping this was her chance to weave her 35 years of wedding planning into her boy's big day. She slipped into a peach blouse, its soft hue echoing the cobbler, and pinned a pearl brooch, her late husband William's gift, at her collar. In her tote, she tucked a small notebook, its pages filled with ideas, magnolia centerpieces, lantern-lit aisles, a string quartet playing Georgia on my mind. Nothing pushy, just a few thoughts to share. Drawn from a career that had made Savannah brides glow. As she drove to Forsyth Park, the radio played the Allman Brothers' Ramblin' Man, its twang stirring memories of William dancing her around the porch. She smiled, whispering, "Wish you were here, darling." You'd know what to say to Ben. Forsyth Park was a jewel in Savannah's crown, its fountain sparkling under ancient oaks, Spanish moss swaying like lace. The lunch was set at a cafe overlooking the green, its patio buzzing with tourists and locals sipping sweet tea. Ellie arrived early, her tote clutching hope, but her stomach knotted when she saw Lila already seated, surrounded by her Charleston friends and her mama. Patricia Pat Prescott, Lila, 30, was a vision in a silk jumpsuit, her blonde hair sleek, her eyes glued to her phone. Pat, sipping a mimosa, wore a tailored dress, her smile as polished as her pearls. The friends, all young and glossy, chatted about Instagram trends, their laughter sharp as glass. "Hey, Mrs. Thornton," Lila said, barely glancing up, her voice cool as a riverstone. "Glad you could make it," Ellie smiled, settling into a wicker chair. "Wouldn't miss it." "Lila, excited to hear your plans." She ordered a tea, its warmth steady in her hands, and waited for the talk to turn to the wedding. The group bantered about venues, rooftops, lofts, nothing like the garden ceremonies Ellie loved, but she stayed quiet, hoping to ease in. When a lull came, she opened her tote, pulling out the notebook. "I brought a few ideas," she said, her voice soft but eager. "Just thoughts. If you're interested, floral arches, maybe, or a low-country menu with shrimp and grits." Lila didn't look at the notebook. She waved a hand, her bracelet jangling. "Oh, that's sweet. Mrs. Thornton, but we're going for a modern vibe, clean lines, LED lights, nothing too traditional." The word dripped with disdain, like it was a stain. Her friends giggled, one chirping, "Yeah, we're following Savannah Bloom on Insta. She did this neon palm wedding in LA insane." Ellie's cheeks warmed. but she kept her smile. "I see," she said, her fingers tightening on the notebook. "But weddings are timeless. Don't you think a touch of Savannah magnolias maybe could blend with your vision?" Lila's smile was all teeth. "No heart. I'm sure your stuff's great. Mrs. Thornton from back then, but weddings have changed, right? We want something that's us, not some vintage lace vibe." Her friends nodded, and Pat leaned to a friend, whispering loud enough for Ellie to hear. "Told you she'd bring her old ideas. Thinks she's taken over." The words hit like a slap, and Ellie's breath caught. She glanced at Lila, hoping for a softening, but Lila's eyes were back on her phone. "We appreciate your excitement," Lila said, her tone syrupy. "But I've got a clear vision. Savannah Bloom's handling it. Just stay in your lane, okay? Keeps things smooth." Ellie froze. The phrase "stay in your lane," a blade slicing through her hope. She forced a nod. Folding the notebook shut, its pages crumpling under her fingers. "Of course," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's your day." Inside, her heart cracked, like a magnolia petal torn by the wind. She sipped her tea, the taste bitter now, and sat silent as the group chattered on. Their words digital invites, vegan menus, a foreign tongue. She felt invisible, a ghost at her own son's wedding table. The lunch dragged, each laugh from Lila's friends a needle in her side. When it ended, Ellie stood, her tote heavy with rejection. "Thanks for including me," she said, her smile brittle. Lila waved, distracted, while Pat's goodbye was a cool nod. Ellie walked to her Buick, the park's fountain mocking her with its sparkle. She drove home, the radio playing Patsy Cline's "I Fall to Pieces," its ache mirroring her own. At the bungalow, she sank onto the porch, peaches leaping into her lap. The river glimmered, but its beauty couldn't touch the hurt. "William," she whispered. "How'd we lose him?" The rift with Ben had been growing, slow as moss on a live oak. After William's death, Ben had buried himself in work, moving from college to a finance job in Savannah's historic district, chasing a life Ellie barely understood. She'd supported him, taken on extra wedding gigs to pay his loans. Her hands blistered from setting up chairs, her heart full of faith. She'd been proud when he got engaged to Lila, thinking her Charleston Polish would light his world. But Lila's circle rooftop bars, influence of friends, was a wall Ellie couldn't climb. She'd felt it first at their engagement party, when Lila had laughed off her suggestion of a low-country band, saying, "We're not doing fiddles." Mrs. Thornton. Ben's silence had hurt worse. He'd stopped calling regularly, his visits to Ardsley Park dwindling to quick drop-ins, his talk filled with Lila's plans, a condo, a Tesla, a wedding to go viral. Ellie had tried to bridge the gap, sending texts about the Savannah Music Festival, offering to cook shrimp and grits, but Ben's replies were short. "Busy. Mama. Soon." She'd hoped the wedding would bring him back, let her pour her love into something they could share. But Lila's words at Forsyth Park, and Ben's absence, she'd learned he was working late, not coming to the lunch had shattered that hope. The phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Joni Sullivan, her voice crackling through the line. "Ellie, you home? I'm coming over. Got a feeling you're hurting." "I'm okay." "Joni," Ellie lied, stroking peaches. "Don't you fib to me." "Eleanor Thornton." Joni said, half scold, half love. "I'm bringing pralines. Be there quick." Ellie hung up, a faint smile tugging her lips. Joni, 64, with a laugh like church bells, had been her rock since William's passing. They'd met at St. John's Episcopal, bonding over book club and potlucks, sharing the ache of children who'd drifted. Joni's daughter lived in Atlanta, rarely calling, and she'd turned that pain into a fierce loyalty to her friends. Joni's VPW bug rolled up, its bumper sporting a faded Georgia Bulldog sticker. She strode in, pralines in hand, her plaid shirt smelling of garden earth. "All right, hon," she said, setting the jar on the counter. "What's got you looking like a rainy day?" Ellie slid the notebook across the table, its pages creased. "Lila," she said, her voice low. "She told me to stay in my lane at lunch today, said my ideas, my life's work are too old-fashioned for their wedding. Ben didn't even show." Joni's jaw tightened, her hand pausing mid-sip. "Lord have mercy," she muttered. "Lila Prescott's got no more heart than a gator. And Ben, letting her talk like that, Ellie. You raised him to know better." "I thought so," Ellie said, her gaze drifting to the river, its ripples churning like her heart. "But he's different now. Joni, Lila's got him thinking my love, this home, ain't worth keeping. I'm losing him." Joni leaned forward, her voice fierce. "You ain't losing nothing. You're Eleanor Thornton, who made Savannah brides shine. This bungalow. Your heart, it's Ben's roots. Don't let him uproot you." Ellie's throat burned, Joni's words kindling a spark. She rose, walking to the cedar chest, its river carving glinting in the light. She pulled out William's journal, its leather soft as a hymn. Settling into his chair, she opened to a page from 2000 when Ben was 12. April 5th. Ben took my Nikon to River Street. Snapped Ellie smiling by the water. She framed it, proud as punch. I told him this family's his anchor, but he's got to hold the rope. She traced the script, tears spilling silent. William had seen Ben's light, his knack for catching beauty, and he'd known Ellie's strength, even when she faltered. She'd given Ben everything: school, love, a home, but his silence, his choice to let Lila dismiss her, was a wound she couldn't ignore. She looked at the notebook, its pages a map of her heart, and felt a resolve harden, like the river freezing in a rare winter chill. The doorbell rang, startling her. Helen Carter, her neighbor, stood there, holding a jar of honey from City Market. "Ellie, you come into the book club tomorrow?" she asked, her spaniel yipping at her heels. "Need your cobbler to steal the show." "I'll be there," Ellie said, taking the jar. "Thanks." "Helen, you look like you're carrying the world." Helen said, soft. "You okay?" "Just memories," Ellie replied, her voice tight. "I'll be all right." After Helen left, Ellie wandered to the hall, staring at Ben's photo. "You used to see me," she whispered, her finger tracing the frame. She thought of Christmas, months away, and the empty chair at her table. Would Ben call, include her in his plans, or was Lila's demand the end? A door closing on their bond. She returned to the kitchen, the cobbler cooling, its note for Ben curling at the edges. The radio played Ray Charles's What Did I Say, its rhythm a faint echo of joy. She dialed Ben's number, heart pounding, but it went to voicemail. His voice crisp. "This is Ben Thornton. Leave a message." She hung up, unable to speak, and sank into a chair, the notebook beside her. A knock broke the silence. Joni was back, her face set. "Ellie, I've been thinking," she said, stepping inside. "You can't let Lila run this show. She's poison, and Ben's drinking it. You got to fight for your love, for you." Ellie looked at the river, its waves silver in the dusk. "I don't want to lose him, Joni," but this she held up the notebook. Voice breaking, "This ain't my Ben. I don't know who he is anymore." Joni sat beside her, her hand warm. "He's still in there, hon, but you can't wait for him to see you. You got to show him who you are, Eleanor Thornton, who built this home with William, who don't bow to nobody." Ellie's eyes fell on the journal. William's words echoing stand tall. "Ellie." She nodded, slow, a fire kindling in her chest. "Maybe you're right," she said, her voice steadying. "Maybe it's time I reminded him." The river glowed, a promise of peace, and Ellie felt William's strength, urging her on. She didn't know what lay ahead, a fight, a loss, or a chance to heal, but she'd face it, not just for Ben, but for the woman she'd always been, the one who'd planted magnolias and dreamed by the water. Hey there, sweet sisters. It's Eva, sitting on my porch in Eufaula, Alabama, with a glass of sweet tea and the lake humming soft under a May moon. At 65, I've learned that a woman's heart can break quiet-like, but when she rises, it's like a magnolia blooming through a storm. You'll ever feel that moment when you know you got to stand tall, not just for love, but for the woman you are. That's where we find Ellie Thornton now, her kitchen lit by a flicker of resolve, her hands ready to draw a line in the Savannah sand. Let's step into her world, feel the fire kindling in her soul, and see how a mother's love turns to steel when pushed too far. Come along, and let's watch Ellie take back what's hers. Eleanor Ellie Thornton stood in her bungalow's kitchen, the glow of a single lamp casting shadows on the oak table, the scent of peach cobbler lingering like a faded prayer. It was late May, and the Savannah River whispered beyond Ardsley Park, its ripples catching the starlight. At 62, Ellie's hands, etched from years of crafting wedding dreams, trembled as she opened her laptop. The screen's blue light stark against the cozy dark. Her cat, Peaches, slept by the hearth, a soft purr in the stillness. On the table lay her wedding planning notebook, its pages creased from Forsyth Park, where Lila Prescott had dismissed her with a cold, "Stay in your lane." But tonight, something new burned in Ellie, a resolve as steady as the river's flow, sparked by a discovery that turned hurt into action. 2 days ago, at St. John's Episcopal Church, Ellie had been arranging hymnals for Sunday service, her apron dusted with flour from back-in pralines for the choir. Joni Sullivan, her book club friend, had pulled her into the vestry, her voice low. "Ellie, I heard something at City Market," Joni had said, her braid swinging. "Lila was there, bragging to her Charleston pals about using your name to get discounts from wedding vendors. Said she'd handle you, make sure you paid up." Ellie's heart had lurched, the hymnals slipping in her hands. My name, she'd whispered, her voice tight. "She's using my reputation without asking," Joni's eyes had flashed. "She's playing you, hun. You gotta stop her. This ain't just a wedding, it's your life's work she's stomping on." The words had seared, echoing through Ellie's prayers as she drove home. The Buick's radio playing Ray Charles's Hit the Road Jack, its rhythm mirroring her anger. She'd thought of her husband William's journal, its pages urging her to stand tall. "Your love's a river, Ellie." He'd written in 07, but damn it when you need to. Lila's betrayal using her name, dismissing her love cut deeper than the Forsyth Park lunch. The wedding fund, $50,000 saved over 20 years, was meant for Ben's joy, not Lila's show. Ellie had given everything school, dreams, her heart but no more. Tonight, an email from a florist had sealed it. "Dear Mrs. Thornton," it read, "Thank you for referring Ms. Prescott. We're excited to provide orchids for her wedding, per your guarantee." Ellie's blood had boiled, she'd made no such promise. Lila had leveraged her name, her 35 years of trust in Savannah's bridal world, to secure deals, assuming Ellie's fund would cover it. The audacity lit a fuse, and Ellie knew she had to act, not with shouts, but with the quiet strength William had seen in her. She opened her savings book, its pages a ledger of love, every extra gig, every skipped vacation, saved for Ben's wedding. She'd dreamed of magnolias, soft lanterns, a day rooted in family. But Lila's vision, LED vines, a viral spectacle, had no room for her, and Ben's silence had been her consent. Ellie's fingers hovered over the phone, then dialed her financial advisor, Clara Mayfield. a no-nonsense woman who'd helped her after William's passing. "Clara," she said, voice steady, "I need to move the wedding fund 49,000 to a new account. Under my name, leave 1,000 in the old one." Clara's voice was calm. "That's a big step. Ellie, you sure that funds your heart?" "It was," Ellie said, her gaze on the notebook, "but my heart's worth more than being used. Can you do it tomorrow?" "First thing," Clara said, "I'll have the papers ready." Ellie hung up, her resolve hardening like the river's clay banks. She rose, walking to the cedar chest in the living room, its river carving glinting in the lamplight. She lifted William's journal, opening to a page from 2005. Ben's got a camera now, snapping Ellie in the garden. She's his light, but he's got to learn to see her, not just take her love. Tears pricked, but Ellie wiped them away. She'd fight for herself, for the woman who'd built this home, who'd woven dreams with magnolias and moonlight. The next morning, Ellie drove to First National Bank on Broughton Street, the radio playing the Allman Brothers' Midnight Rider, its grit fueling her. She signed the papers, Clara's steady hand guiding her, and watched the teller process the transfer. "Done," the teller said, handing her a receipt. Ellie slipped it into her purse, beside a photo of Ben at Forsyth Park, his boyish grin a ghost. She stepped out, the Savannah air warm, the river's glint a quiet promise. She'd drawn a line, not with anger, but with love for herself, back home. Ellie baked another cobbler, the kitchen filling with its sweetness, a ritual to steady her nerves. She wrote a note, slipping it into an envelope with a check for the remaining 1,000, "Dear Ben and Lila, wishing you a beautiful wedding. Here's a small gift to start your journey. Love, Mama." She mailed it, knowing it'd stir a storm, but she was ready. The river had taught her to flow, but also to stand firm, like a cypress in a flood. That evening, Ellie's phone buzzed. An email from a caterer, Miss Prescott, requested shrimp and grits for the wedding. "Citing your approval." Ellie's jaw tightened. She'd approved nothing. She forwarded it to Clara, adding, "Lila's using my name again." Clara replied, "We'll protect you. Ellie, keep any evidence." Ellie nodded, her laptop open, ready to record more if needed. The River Street Festival was tomorrow, a Savannah tradition of music, food, and lanterns along the waterfront. Lila and Ben would be there. Joni had heard, and Ellie decided to go not to confront, but to listen. If Lila was planning to milk her fund, she'd slip, and Ellie would be ready. She dressed in a cotton skirt, pinned a magnolia to her blouse, and tucked her phone in her purse, its recording app primed. Joni met her at the festival, the air thick with the scent of fried okra and jazz from a street band. "You sure about this?" Joni asked, handing her a lemonade. "I'm not stirring trouble," Ellie said, her voice firm. "I'm protecting what's mine." They wandered the festival, lanterns glowing like fireflies, the river reflecting their light. Ellie spotted Lila near a praline stall, her silk dress catching the glow, laughing with Charleston friends. Ben stood beside her, his smile strained, his flannel shirt rumpled. Ellie stayed back, blending with the crowd, her phone recording. Lila's voice, sharp and smug, carried over the music. "Mrs. Thornton's fund is ours," she said, sipping a cocktail. "She'll pay up, she's too soft to say no. We'll have that rooftop wedding, viral and all." Ellie's heart clenched, but she held still, the recording capturing every word. Ben muttered, "Lila, maybe we should ask her first." Lila laughed, dismissive. "Bless her heart. Ben, she'll do what's best. I've got Savannah Bloom locked in." Ellie stopped the recording, her hands shaking. Joni's arm steadied her. "You got her," Joni whispered. "She's hanging herself." Ellie nodded, but the pain was raw. Ben's weak protest wasn't enough. He'd let Lila plan to exploit her. She slipped the phone into her purse, heading for her Buick, the festival's joy fading behind her. At home, she emailed the recording to Clara, her fingers steady despite the ache. Clara called, her voice grim. "This is proof. Ellie, Lila's assuming your money's hers. We'll use it if they push back." "Will it come to that?" Ellie asked, her voice catching. "Hope not," Clara said, "but you're covered. You did the right thing." Ellie hung up, sinking into William's chair, the journal in her lap. She opened to a page from 2010. Ellie's love is fierce, but she's got to guard it. Ben's got to earn it, not take it. She closed her eyes, William's voice echoing. She'd fought for Ben all her life, but now she'd fight for herself. The next day, Ben's truck rolled up, its Georgia Bulldog sticker gleaming. He stormed in, the check in his hand, his face a mix of anger and guilt. "Mama, what's this?" he demanded, holding up the envelope. $1,000. Lila's furious. She thought you were covering the whole wedding. Ellie stood, her voice calm but sharp. "Ben, Lila told me to stay in my lane, said my ideas, my love, were outdated. She's using my name to get deals, assuming I'd pay. I'm done being invisible." Ben's jaw tightened. "It's not like that. Lila's stressed, trying to make it perfect. Perfect doesn't mean erasing your mama," Ellie said, her eyes locking on his. "You stood there, silent, while she dismissed me. I raised you better." Ben rubbed his neck, his voice low. "Mama, I didn't mean—" "You didn't stop her," Ellie cut in, tears brimming. "I love you." "Ben, but I'm worth more than this. That check's my lane, take it or leave it." Ben stared, the check crumpling in his hand. He turned, leaving without a word, the doors slam, echoing like a gavel. Ellie sank into the chair, Peaches leaping into her lap, and let the tears fall, the river outside whispering strength. She'd drawn her line. And whatever came next, anger, loss, or hope she'd face it, her heart fierce, her home her own. "Hey there. Dear sisters, it's Eva, back on my porch in Eufaula, Alabama, with a glass of sweet tea and the lake shining soft under a June dusk. At 65, I've learned that life's storms can tear you apart, but they also clear the way for new light, like a magnolia blooming fresh after rain. You'll ever stand through a hurt so deep it changed you, only to find hope waiting on the other side." That's where we find Ellie Thornton now, her heart still tender from the fight, but her spirit rising in Savannah, Georgia, where the river runs steady and true. Let's step into her world, feel the weight lifting from her shoulders, and see how a mother's love can mend what's broken. Come along, and let's walk this path of healing with her. Eleanor. Ellie Thornton sat on her bungalow's porch in Savannah's Ardsley Park, the evening air warm with the scent of magnolias, their petals glowing soft in the twilight. At 62, Ellie's hands, weathered from years of crafting wedding dreams, rested on a sketch pad, her pencil tracing the curves of the Savannah River. Her cat, Peaches, sprawled beside her, purring low, while the river, just blocks away, shimmered like a silver thread. The past month had been a whirlwind, her decision to withdraw $49,000 from the wedding fund, leaving only $1,000 for her son Benjamin Ben Thornton and his fiancée. Lauren Lila Prescott had sent shockwaves through their world. Ellie's heart still ached from Ben's anger, his accusation that she'd betrayed him, but she held firm, knowing she'd reclaimed her dignity, like a cypress standing tall in a flood. The fallout came swift and brutal. 2 weeks ago, Ellie had been at Forsyth Park, sharing peach cobbler with her book club, when Joni Sullivan, her friend from St. John's Episcopal, leaned close, her braid swinging. "Ellie, it's all over City Market," Joni had whispered. Lila's wedding planner, that Savannah Bloom gal from Instagram, Took off with $55,000, Ben and Lila's deposit included. Website's gone, phone's dead, Insta wiped clean. Ellie's breath had caught. The cobbler turned into ash in her mouth. A scam, she'd asked, her voice low. All their money. Every penny. Joni had said, her eyes wide. Lila's blaming Ben, saying he should have pushed you for the fund. They're done weddings off. And folks say she's heading back to Charleston. Ellie had nodded, her heart a tangle of sorrow and vindication. She'd read the news later, a local blog detailing Savannah Bloom's fraud, 4 couples across the South. Hundreds of thousands gone. Ben and Lila's names were a footnote. Local victims of a scheme fueled by Lila's obsession with a viral wedding. Ellie hadn't cheered or gloated. The hurt was too raw. Lila's ambition, her demand that Ellie stay in her lane, had led to this. But Ben's silence, his choice to let Lila exploit her, stung deeper. She'd withdrawn the fund to protect herself, but seeing her boy's dreams crumble brought no joy. Only a quiet ache, like a river running low. Back on the porch, Ellie set the sketchpad aside, her gaze drifting to the river. She'd spent the week since the bank visit rebuilding her world, small steps at a time. She'd joined a painting class at Telfair Academy, her brush capturing the river's flow, each stroke a reclaiming of the dreams she'd shelved for Ben. She'd volunteered at the church, teaching kids to plant marigolds, their giggles a balm. Her bungalow, once heavy with loss, felt lighter, its porch humming with possibility. Yet Ben's absence was a shadow. His last words, "Mama." How could you echo in like a hymn gone sour? Her phone buzzed. Ben's name lightened the screen. Her heart skipped, but she let it ring. Fear and more anger. The voicemail chimed, his voice hoarse. "Mama, it's Ben. I messed up. Can we talk? I'm at the old pink house tomorrow. Noon. Please come." Ellie played it twice, her fingers tracing William's journal. Tucked in her tote, "Love's a river," he'd written, "Let it flow. But don't drown." She felt a stir, cautious but real, like a magnolia bud just opening. She'd go, not to fix, but to listen, to see if her boy could find his way back. The next day, Ellie drove to the old pink house, a Savannah gem with pink stucco walls and a patio smelling of shrimp and grits. She wore a cotton dress, a magnolia pinned to her collar, her tote holding the journal and Ben's childhood photo. The restaurant buzzed with locals and tourists, jazz drifting from a street band on Reynolds Square. Ben sat by a window, his flannel shirt rumpled, a bouquet of marigolds, her garden's flowers on the table. Beside him was a woman, 30-ish, with kind eyes and a simple braid, her sundress soft blue. Ellie's heart quickened. This wasn't Lila. "Mama," Ben said, standing as she approached, his voice breaking. He hugged her, tight and trembling, his scent of cedar and regret an echo of William. "This is Clara Hayes. She's important to me." Ellie nodded, shaking Clara's hand, her grip warm. "Pleased to meet you." "Clara," she said, sitting, her eyes searching Ben's. Clara smiled, her voice gentle. "Mrs. Thornton, Ben's told me about you, your weddings, your garden, your heart. I'm sorry for what happened. I'd love for you to plan our wedding. If you're willing, it'd be an honor." Ellie's breath caught, the offer alight through the fog. She looked at Ben, seeing the boy who'd snapped her photo at Forsyth Park, now a man with regret in his eyes. "Mama," he said, his voice raw, "I'm so sorry. I let Lila take over. Let her push you out. I was wrong about the wedding. About you. I found this." He pulled out a faded photo, the one he'd taken of her laughing by the river. "I forgot what you mean. What this family means. I want to make it right. If you'll let me." Ellie's throat tightened. The photo a bridge to the past. She touched it, seeing William's smile in Ben's lines. Ben, she said, tears brimming, you hurt me deep. Lila told me to stay in my lane, and you didn't stop her. You let her use my name, my love, like it was nothing. Words ain't enough. Why should I trust you now? Ben's eyes glistened, his hands clenching the table. You shouldn't, he said. Honest, I don't deserve it yet, but I'm here, Mama, trying. Lila's gone back to Charleston, and blaming me, but I'm done with her world. Clara sees me, sees you. I want to come home, help in the garden, maybe take photos again, whatever it takes. Clara leaned forward, her voice soft. Mrs. Thornton, I grew up in a small town near Savannah, in a house like yours full of love. Not show. I want our wedding to feel like that. And Ben says you're the best. I'd be grateful for your touch. Ellie studied Clara, seeing sincerity in her eyes, a warmth Lila never had. She reached for Ben's hand, her touch tentative. I love you. Ben, she said, her voice steady. But trust takes time. Start small. Come for supper Sunday. Bring your camera. We'll see where it goes. Ben nodded, relief softening his face. I'll be there, Mama, I promise. They parted with a hug, fragile but real. Clara's smile, a quiet hope. Ellie drove home, the radio playing Patsy Cline's Walking After Midnight. Its ache easing into peace. She felt William's presence, his journal a guide, urging her to let love flow, slow and true. Back at the bungalow, Ellie's world bloomed anew. She painted at Telfair Academy, her river scenes drawing praise, each stroke a reclaiming of her spirit. She organized a small wedding for a neighbor's daughter, using marigolds and lanterns, the couple's joy a mirror of her own. Joni joined her for book club, their laughter over fried green tomatoes filling the kitchen, where Peaches napped by the hearth. The house, once a battleground, was a haven, its porch a stage for new dreams. That Sunday, Ben came, his Nikon slung over his shoulder, a shy smile breaking through. They ate shrimp and grits, talking of William, of Savannah's quiet beauty. Clara joined them, bringing a jar of honey from City Market, her warmth easing the air. They walked to the garden, Ben snapping photos of Ellie among the magnolias, his lens catching her light. It wasn't the past, but something new, a seed planted in fertile ground. Ellie looked at him, seeing her boy, and knew they'd grow, slow as the river's waves, steady as her blooms. Hey there, sweet sisters. It's Eva, sitting on my porch in Eufaula, Alabama, with a glass of sweet tea and the lake glowing like a pearl under the July stars. At 65, I've learned that life's hardest roads, those that break your heart, can lead to places so beautiful you never dreamed they'd exist. Like a magnolia blooming bold after a long winter. You'll ever come through a storm and find yourself stronger, with a heart full of new light. That's where we find Ellie Thornton now, her hands crafting dreams again in Savannah, Georgia, her spirit rising like the river's song. Let's step into her world one last time, feel the hope that's taken root, and see how a mother's love can build something new. Come along, and let's celebrate this fresh start with her. Eleanor, Ellie Thornton, stood in her garden at the bungalow on Abercorn Street, Ardsley Park, the July breeze carrying the scent of magnolias and the faint hum of cicadas. At 62, Ellie moved with a quiet confidence, her hands, weathered from 35 years of wedding planning, holding a paintbrush as she added a final stroke to a canvas of the Savannah River, its waters dancing in hues of gold and blue. Her cat, Peaches, lazed in the shade of a clematis vine, while the river, just beyond, shimmered like a mirror of her renewed heart. 6 months had passed since she'd withdrawn the wedding fund, a stand against her son, Benjamin Ben Thornton's fiancée, Lauren Lila Prescott, whose cold demand to stay in her lane had sparked a journey Ellie never expected. Now, with Lila gone and Ben finding his way back, Ellie was blooming anew, like a magnolia after a storm. Her days were full, woven with threads of purpose she'd rediscovered. She'd become a regular at Telfair Academy's painting class, her river scenes earning quiet praise from Savannah's art crowd. She volunteered at St. John's Episcopal Church, leading a group of kids in planting marigolds, their laughter echoing like the hymns she'd sung with her late husband, William. Her bungalow, once a silent witness to her pain, hummed with life friends dropping by for peach cobbler, book club meetings filled with fried green tomatoes debates, and her porch a haven where she journaled her thoughts, each page a step toward herself. The fight over the fund had been a crucible, burning away the Ellie who'd given too much, forging a woman who knew her worth, her roots deep as the river's clay. The wedding that had torn her world apart was a distant memory. Lila's dream of a viral spectacle, fueled by the scamming planner Savannah Bloom, had collapsed, leaving Ben and Lila's plans in ruins. Lila had fled to Charleston, her pride shattered, blaming Ben for the loss, while Savannah buzzed with whispers of the scandal, 4 couples defrauded, hundreds of thousands gone. Ellie had read the news at Forsyth Park. The fountains sparkle a stark contrast to her heavy heart. She'd felt no triumph, only sorrow for Ben's pain, but also a quiet peace, knowing her choice to withdraw $49,000 had protected her from Lila's greed. The $1,000 she'd left, a small check sent with a note, had been her final gift not to Lila, but to the boy she'd raised. Ben's return had been a slow, fragile thing, starting with a tearful meeting at the old Pink House, where he'd introduced Clara Hayes, a woman whose warmth had eased Ellie's guard. Clara, a schoolteacher with a love for simple things, had asked Ellie to plan their wedding, a request that felt like a balm. Since then, Ben had come every Sunday, his Nikon in hand, snapping photos of the garden, their talks weaving past and present. He'd left his finance job, opening a small photography studio off Bay Street, capturing Savannah's beauty in ways that echoed William's heart. Lila was a ghost. Their engagement dissolved, and Ben, free of her shadow, was finding his way home not just to Ardsley Park, but to himself. Today, Ellie was preparing for Ben and Clara's wedding, set for next month at Wormslow Historic Site, a place of ancient oaks and quiet grace. She'd spent weeks planning, not with the flash Lila craved, but with love magnolia garlands, lantern-lit paths, a low-country menu of shrimp and grits. Clara had sat with her on the porch, sipping sweet tea, saying, "Mrs. Thornton, I want it to feel like home, like your garden." Ellie had smiled, her heart full, knowing this was the wedding she'd always dreamed for Ben. She set the paintbrush down, heading to the kitchen, where a peach cobbler baked, its aroma filling the air. The table was set with her mama's embroidered linens, a vase of marigolds glowing in the center. Ben and Clara were coming for supper, along with Joni Sullivan and Helen Carter, her book club friends. Ellie wore a cotton dress, a magnolia tucked in her hair, her pearl brooch glinting at her collar. The radio played Ray Charles's Georgia on My Mind, its soulful notes a nod to William, who'd loved this song. The doorbell chimed, and Joni swept in, her braid swinging, holding a pan of collard greens. "Supper smells like paradise," she said, hugging Ellie. Ben and Clara on their way. "Any minute," Ellie said, taking the pan. "Brought your pralines, always." Joni grinned, settling at the table. "You're glowing, hun. This wedding's got your light all over it." Helen arrived next, her spaniel yipping, a jar of honey from Satie Market in hand. "Ellie, your cobbler's gonna steal the show," she said, petting peaches. "Heard Ben's studio's taken off. Folks say he's got your eye for beauty. Ellie smiled, stirring the greens. He's finding his heart again. That's what matters. The crunch of gravel announced Ben's truck. Its Georgia Bulldog sticker faded but proud. He stepped out, his Nikon slung over his shoulder. Clara beside him, her sundress soft blue, a basket of cornbread in her hands. "Mama," Ben called, hugging her tight, his cedar scent to echo of William. "Clara baked hope it's half as good as yours." Clara laughed, handing over the basket. "Mrs. Thornton, I'm learning. But your kitchen's magic." They gathered at the table, the linens glowing under candlelight. The meal a tapestry of low country love cobbler, greens, cornbread, and Helen's honey. Ben pulled a frame from his bag, unwrapping a new photo, a shot of Ellie in her garden, laughing among the magnolias, her face lit by dusk. "For you, Mama," he said, his voice low. "Took it last week. It's how I see you now, strong, beautiful, home." Ellie's eyes misted, her fingers tracing the frame. "It's perfect, Ben," she said, her voice catching. "Like you saw me through William's heart." Ben's smile was shy. "I'm sorry, Mama, for everything. Lila blinded me. But Clara and you showed me what's real. I'm here, and I ain't leaving." Ellie reached for his hand, her touch warm. "You're home. Ben, that's enough for now. We'll take it one supper at a time." Clara leaned forward, her eyes bright. "Mrs. Thornton, the wedding plans are coming together so well, those lanterns, the magnolias. It feels like us, like family. Thank you." They ate, laughing over Joni's tales of River Street Festival, Helen's spaniel shenanigans, and Ben's studio mishaps, a kid smearing paint on a print, a cat knocking over a tripod. The candle flickered, casting a glow on the linens, and Ellie felt William's presence, his journal resting on her bedside table. Its words a promise kept love's a river. "Ellie, let it flow." She looked at Ben, seeing the boy who'd photographed her, the man learning to love again, and knew they were mending, slow but sure. After supper, they moved to the porch, the river silver under the moon. Ben snapped photos, Clara sketching the magnolias, while Ellie journaled, writing July 15th, 2025. "Ben's home, and so am I. William, we're healing. One day at a time." Joni and Helen chattered, their voices a soft hum, and Peaches napped at Ellie's feet, the night wrapping them like a quilt. The next month, Ellie's painting was featured at the Savannah Farmers Market, hung beside Ben's photos, in a booth strung with fairy lights. Folks stopped to admire, whispering about the Thornton touch, and Ellie smiled. Sharing pralines with passers-by, she'd joined the Savannah Historical Society, helping plan the music festival, her bungalow a stop on a local tour, its porch a beacon of her story. She felt William in every bloom, every wave, his love a light that never dimmed. Ben visited often, bringing photos, helping in the garden, their talks deepening. He spoke of Clara, of leaving Lila's world behind. "I want to stay, Mama," he said one evening, as they ate shrimp and grits on the porch. "Maybe teach kids to shoot photos, like Dad taught me." Ellie's heart swelled. "You've got his soul." "Ben," she said, her voice soft. "Stay. This is home." The wedding at Wormslow was a dream, magnolias swaying under oaks, lanterns casting a golden glow, Clara radiant in a simple gown. Ben's eyes locked on her. Ellie stood proud, her touch in every detail, her heart full as they vowed to love through every season. It wasn't grand, but it was theirs, a promise rooted in truth, not show. Ellie's journal grew, its pages a tapestry of her life. She wrote of painting, of Ben's studio, of Clara's laughter. She taught at the community centre, helping young couples plan budget weddings, their gratitude a gift. She'd found herself not just Ben's mama, but Eleanor Thornton, artist, friend, woman of Savannah. The bungalow, once a battlefield, was a sanctuary, its porch a place of peace. One evening, as she sat on the porch, the radio playing Ray Charles's What Did I Say, Ben joined her, his Nikon resting on his knee. "Look, Mama," he said, showing a photo of her at Wormslow, her face alight with joy. "This is you now." Ellie's eyes misted, her hand touching his. "And this is us," she said, nodding at the bungalow. "The river, the magnolias. We're home, Ben." The river glowed, a mirror of their mending hearts. And Ellie felt William's smile, his journal a vow fulfilled. She'd fought for her dignity, her love, and found more a son returned, a life reborn, a heart that bloomed, like magnolias, through every season. Oh, sisters, Ellie's story is like a hymn sung soft at St. John's Episcopal, full of pain but rising to hope. You'll ever find peace after a storm. Knowing you're stronger for it, I'd love to hear your tales. Drop 'em in the comments. Let's share our hearts. If Ellie's journey warmed you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, 'cause we've got more stories from Savannah, more tears, laughs, and slices of peach cobbler. Stay with me and let's keep walking this road together.